It's always hard to top Catherine's enthusiasm when it comes to these sorts of things. So I'll play second fiddle. It is today my distinct pleasure to introduce the minister. I've had the privilege of knowing him both personally and working with him in his role as Minister of Education. Minister Nicolaides is a born Calgarian and initially educated here, receiving his first degree at Calgary and then taking his master's in Austria and his PhD in Cyprus. Politics called to him, and he was first elected on April 16th, 2019, and was very shortly thereafter appointed the Minister of Advanced Education. And then on June 9th of 2023, he was appointed Minister of Education. On September 17th, as you know, Minister, the Government of Alberta announced an unprecedented investment in education capital in Alberta, totaling $8.6 billion over 3 years, to create about 100,000 new student spaces for all types of education in Alberta. Minister, thank you for that and the hard work you and your team do every day to ensure our children receive a great Alberta education. Minister.
So Kelly, does that mean I'm third fiddle then? Two tough acts to follow, indeed. But Kelly, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for your many years of cooperation and friendship. I truly appreciate it. And thank you, Catherine, as well for organizing, and thank you to everyone with Alberta Enterprise Group for coordinating, and thank you to everyone for being here today and enjoying a lunch to chat a little bit about the state of education. Now, of course, you've all made a grave and dangerous error by giving a politician a microphone, because that means I'm going to sit here and drone on for quite a while and talk about a range of different things. So I'll try my best not to, but it is always dangerous territory. I know Tyler can attest to that, as can others. There's a lot that we want to talk about, a lot that we want to say. Now, I do want to talk a little bit, though. I want to try and stay focused and stay on theme and talk a little bit about the future of education and talk about where our education system is at and where we're going. And I also want to talk a little bit about some of the themes generally. But Kelly stole my thunder a little bit, and I did want to take a few moments just to talk about what we're doing right now in Alberta education, what's happening right now in the province, and what are some of the things that are of top concern. And so Kelly hit the nail right on the head in terms of our first most critical priority and objective. Right now, we are seeing unprecedented and historic enrollment growth. And I don't need to tell all of you that. You all see it at your respective schools that you work with and respective schools that you're involved with. Just seeing the range of applications that are coming in. And we're seeing this historic pressure due primarily to historic population growth. I don't know if it's official yet, but I haven't looked at the population figures, but we were set to pass 5 million people this January. So that'll be in the province of Alberta. So that'll be happening any day now. So we've received a dramatic boost in population over the course of the past couple of years. In 2023 alone, our population grew by over 200,000 people. And that is cascading into our school systems. Edmonton Public Schools says they are seeing historic levels of enrollment growth that they haven't seen in over 60 years. And I see friends here from Calgary Public, and I'm sure their stats are pretty similar. I know, speaking of Calgary Public, their enrollment grew, or their utilization rate grew, if I'm not mistaken, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, from 85% the one year to an astonishing 92% the subsequent year. It's just been a significant and dramatic boom in population that's come very quickly. So obviously, one of our top priorities in the ministry is to make sure that we are as quickly as possible creating the necessary spaces to accommodate these students. And we want to create these spaces with all of our partners, public, Catholic, charter, and independent, and others as well. We want to make sure that we are expanding opportunities for all students. And this ties into our second objective of the ministry, which is to expand choice in education. We firmly believe that it is ultimately and fundamentally parents who are the best deciders and not politicians about the future of their kids' education and what education is best suited for their children. And we know that one of the best ways that we can help parents make that decision is by ensuring that there is an availability of choice in our education market. Apart from that, we're also focused on removing distractions from our classrooms and ensuring our students are getting the foundations right. And we're doing that by undertaking a number of steps. As you know, very recently, we limited and banned cell phones from the classroom. I still am hard-pressed to find an argument as to why a student needs a cell phone in the classroom. I'm sure many 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds would like to argue with me about the various reasons that they need to have them. But of course, time in the classroom needs to be spent learning and retaining knowledge and preparing them to succeed. So that's one of the measures that we're taking to remove distractions. And additionally, we are putting additional focus on strengthening the formative years of a child's education. The kindergarten to grade 3 and arguably further years are the most important years in a child's education journey. And that's why I've recently mandated literacy and numeracy screening for all students in kindergarten in grades 1, 2, and 3. Because I firmly believe that every student deserves the ability to get those foundational pillars right and receive all of the support that they need. The science is clear and the evidence is clear that students who start their educational journey with weakness in reading will continue to have weakness in reading and may always lag behind their peers if that's not corrected. Now, some disagree with our approach. I was battling the Alberta Teachers Association in media yesterday because they have criticized the government for the imposition of additional standardized tests to kindergarten students. And I had to just fire back and say that I cannot for the life of me understand why anyone would object to a teacher having more information about the literacy and numeracy skills of their students. I still cannot understand the objection to having that information. It gives them the ability to make more informed decisions to better support their kids. So these are some of the things that we're working on within the ministry. And of course, as I mentioned, trying to contend with the significant boom in population that we're seeing. Now to get back on topic though, and to talk a little bit about the future of education, I do want to talk about where we are today, because I truly believe that we stand at a very pivotal moment in the history of education. As we know, the world is changing around us quickly, and it's changing at an unprecedented pace, driven largely by technological advancements and the ever-increasing and changing demands of the 21st century workforce. To equip our students for success in this dynamic landscape, we must reimagine some of the very foundations of education. Many would argue that the traditional model of education with an emphasis on memorization is out of date, and I would agree with that in some respects. And I would strongly agree with the need to shift our focus towards cultivating critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, creativity, and collaboration, as these are, and others, are the essential skills that will empower those individual students to thrive in a complex and fast-paced world. There are a few areas, though, that I think we need to innovate and we need to pay some more attention to. The first, for me, is personalized learning. I think this is an area that is becoming more and more important. We need to embrace personalized learning approaches that cater to the unique learning styles, paces, and interests of each student. This can be achieved in part through the use of technology, such as adaptive learning platforms and personalized learning plans to tailor education to individual needs. But we all know that apart from our classrooms becoming larger due to additional student growth, they're also becoming more complex. Again, educators and school leaders here already know this and know this better than I. More and more students in our classrooms are dealing with behavioral challenges, learning disabilities, other special and unique learning needs. And the future of education is much more personalized. And the more that we can do to deliver that personalized education to help and support that individual student, the better that individual will be and the greater potential they will reach. To give you a personal example, my oldest daughter has the combined unique challenge of both ADHD and giftedness. And we've recently completed a comprehensive psych ed assessment for her. And the psychologist looked at us in some areas because she completely topped the charts and said, like, I don't know what you're going to do with her. You know, there won't be a challenge that she won't be able to undertake. I think she scored in the 99th percentile in her visual spatial ability at a 131 IQ. So now pair that with ADHD, and you got a unique mix on your hands. And again, our educators and teachers and partners in the room know this, so they deal with it every day. But the more we can recraft and reimagine our education system where that dealing with a unique student like that is not a tall order is truly the future of our education system. We're still a ways off, indeed. But I truly believe that that's where the future of our education system lies. Of course, another priority as it relates to the future of our education system is strengthening experiential learning. More and more, our world is requiring individuals with strength and experiential learning opportunities. And classroom learning, as we all know, extends far beyond the textbook. And we need to put more emphasis and focus into prioritizing experiential learning opportunities, such as internships, apprenticeship, job opportunities, to provide students with the practical and real world skills that they need to succeed. I want to talk very briefly about technology because, of course, it's transforming every aspect of our lives. And it will also change every aspect of education, and we must adapt our education system to keep pace. We need to integrate technology seamlessly into the learning process, equipping students with the digital literacy skills necessary to navigate through the digital age. Now, yes, we've banned cell phones from the classroom, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn about technology in a responsible way. This isn't stick our head in the sand and ignore technology. It's about responsible technology use and safe technology use. As a father of 5 children under 10, safe technology use is of primary concern in our home and something that we have to take seriously. I also want to talk about social and emotional learning. In addition to academic skills and experiential learning, students need to develop the social and emotional skills that they're going to need to succeed, such as empathy, communication, resilience, and hard work. These skills are crucial for building strong relationships, navigating social situations, and achieving personal and professional success. And lastly, I want to talk very shortly, because I know I'm probably way over my time, but I warned you up front. I want to talk a little bit about equity and access. We must ensure that we create a system that provides for all students, as I mentioned at the beginning, regardless of their background, their circumstance, or their unique or specialized learning needs. This includes addressing opportunities for all students to receive a world-class education despite any challenges that they may have. And we could probably have an entire conversation dedicated to equity, access, and inclusion in our classrooms. And I think we will be having a large, robust conversation actually about these pieces over the course of the coming year. So surprise. And for some of our education partners in the room, I do hope that this year is the year where we can at least begin the conversation, hopefully conclude the conversation as well, but at least begin it around equity, inclusion, and in our classrooms. I've heard a lot of commentary about inclusion in our classrooms over the course of the past year and a half about the current model that we use in our classrooms, and that it may not be working, may not be achieving its intended goals and outcomes, and that we may need to take a closer look. at how we define inclusion in our classrooms. And of course, keeping in mind always the best needs and interests of the individual student. And so in short, I'll try to wrap up here. The future of education, in my view, is not just about imparting knowledge, but it's about empowering individuals to become lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and active citizens. It's about fostering a love of learning and equipping students with the skills and the confidence that they'll need to navigate an uncertain world. This transformation will require collective action from all of us together here in this room. And so my closing call to action to all of you today is, let's work together. Let's work together to create an education system that prepares our students for a successful and fulfilling life. Thank you again so much for having me here today.
Well, thank you so much, Minister, for first of all, for coming to share these thoughts with us and to spend some time. We're going to have some questions from the crowd because we have so many folks who are educators themselves and who have questions for you. But maybe just to start us off, I have a personal question for you, and it's got a little bit of a preface. But I remember before the 2019 election, maybe about a month before, a former Tory cabinet minister approached me and said, "Hey, listen, mister," that's actually how this guy speaks.
Try to guess who it was.
Former education minister, and not Gary. Anybody said, look, if you are successful next month and your party forms government, the premier-elect is going to call you into his office and he's going to ask you what you want, and you better have an answer. And as you know, we did win, and each of us was called in for 10 minutes with Jason and asked what we wanted. And long story short, my answer was something along the lines of, give me something hard.
Give me a challenge.
Right? Right? But when I left the federal building, Andrea was picking me up, and I went to the car and I told her the story. Yeah. And she hit me in the arm and she said, "You idiot, he's going to give you education." But the idea that for her, the epitome of the most difficult job in cabinet, especially for someone with young children, was in education. Tell us, after the 23 election, were you asked what you wanted? And did you say education? Because I think the answer is yes. And tell us a little bit about why you asked for the job.
Yeah. First off, I thought health was the most difficult one.
Because you were smarter than me.
I don't know. And I mean, even before the clouds of a pandemic were on the horizon, but I think even health is a really challenging portfolio. No, I remember those conversations. Absolutely. Of course, happened in 2019 and happened in 2023. And you're right. I didn't really, as a first-time elected official back in 2019, I didn't really know anything about it. And I was just kind of casually driving up to Edmonton, and, the premier wants to have a meeting with you, or was arranging the meetings with every caucus member. And I was just casually kind of driving up, and a friend called me and asked me, what I was doing, and told them that I was driving up. And this is a person with some political experience. And they said, "You idiot, like, where exactly are you at?" And I said, "I'm about Red Deer. You have an hour and 30 minutes in the car to prepare your pitch for the premier about what portfolio you want." And I said, no, we're just having a chat. And I said, "No, Kenny's going to ask you, like, what portfolio you want." And I was like, "Oh, I got an hour and a half. I better think it through." So in 23, I was a little bit more prepared when the premier called in 23, having gone through that exercise. So short answer is yes, I did ask for education. And I asked for it for a couple of different reasons. Number one, because of my previous involvement with advanced education, I thought that it would give me some good perspective and insight that could assist me in the education portfolio. I spent 4 years in the advanced education portfolio, got a strong understanding of how our post-secondary system works and operates, and more importantly, how our apprenticeship system works and operates, because of course that is housed within the Ministry of Advanced Education. And one of our collective goals with the government over the past 2 terms has been to create more apprenticeship opportunities in the K-12 system. So I thought I can bring some of that knowledge of our apprenticeship system and use it in the K-12 to do that. one of my reasons as well was because I do have young kids in the education system. So it'll help me have my finger on the pulse. So if I'm making some changes, I can see the little ones coming home from school and seeing how it's actually working and how they're actually being affected. Not to use my own kids as guinea pigs, but you can see how some of those things are actually happening. And thirdly, you just have to sometimes you just have to take the shots that are there, right? Take the opportunity that's in front of you, and it was an opportunity, and I thought that there's a significant opportunity to make some lasting impact in our education system, respecting curriculum, learning objectives, outcomes, and so make the pitch, and so that's what I did.
That's great. And are there ways in which you think each day, like there's something that was neglected, or there's something that's, I don't want to say broken, but broken every day when you wake up? I remember Rick McIver saying to me once that you rent this chair by the day. So his point was, like, every day you wake up, what are you doing today to make the ministry better, to make the system better? And like you mentioned, the news stories yesterday, which, by the way, I think if the ATA is attacking you on that, it shows they're not a serious partner of the governments in education. But good for you for doing that. You saw something that was broken and trying to work to make sure that teachers do have, instead of waiting till grade 4, they have this information way earlier. But are there ways that you're thinking, like, every day you wake up, I'm going to fix this, or I'm going to improve this file a little bit?
Yeah, and I do very much have that mindset that tomorrow someone else could be sitting in this chair, right? And sometimes cabinet can seem, and government can seem like musical chairs, cabinet shuffles and different things happening. And so you have, the future is uncertain. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no idea if you're going to be moved out of the portfolio. And so you're in the chair, you're in the seat now. Take the opportunity and do what you can. I don't look at it from a day-to-day perspective. Maybe I should. That's a good way to look at it. But I do look at it from the sense of, you're here, you have the opportunity. What changes do you want to make? And for me, there are a few. Some of the things that I want to do, there's still some more work to do, revolves around the early literacy and numeracy. The screening is one component of that, but I am curious to see what more there is that we can do to make sure that we put as strong of an emphasis and focus on the formative years, because those formative and foundational years are so important. And if a student doesn't get the fundamentals right, they're lagging behind in grade 1, they're lagging behind in grade 2. They, again, pile of studies have shown they will encounter more problems in the future. So why are we not putting as much emphasis and focus into those early formative years as we possibly can? So that's one thing that I really want to achieve and kind of tick off on the boxes. The second thing that I want to achieve, which we've been able to really move the needle on already, is around the school construction program and adding more spaces. Not just because of the significant growth that we're experiencing now, but because building more schools in growing communities, schools are important anchors to those communities, and more families can have their kids walk to school. It's a dream that a lot of families want to be able to achieve, and it's a real center for a community. So the more that we can do in building a lot of these schools, I think, is really, really important. And the other piece for me that I really want to achieve is updating and improving our curriculum. You put someone with a PhD of political science and in a place where they get to tinker with the social studies curriculum, it's like you're putting a pig in mud, right? Like it's a great environment. But being able to, since we're going through that curriculum renewal process, being able to have eyes on that process and to work through it, I think is really impactful and potentially lasting work. I didn't mention it a ton when I spoke, but there's a lot of work that I want to explore around career and life management, career education, life skills, and how we are adapting our curriculum and programming to make sure that students are set up for success. So that's also something that's a top priority for me.
That's great. I thought you'd say curriculum because you mentioned that was something that you are passionate about And so I have one last question then before we open it up, since you mentioned curriculum. And you mentioned you have 5 young children, so you have these guinea pigs. My kid's a little bit older. If you want to use them as guinea pigs as well, because they're a little bit older. My oldest is really interested in computer science. So I realize as he's now in grade 11, before he goes into grade 12. So I got my first iPhone in 2009. That's the last time that Computer Science 30 was last updated.
No way. I didn't know that.
So
holy smokes, we got a lot of work to do.
yeah, just put that on your radar. Great. Well, thank you for that. So we'll open up for questions. Catherine, if you don't helping us, does anybody want to begin with a question? Thanks, Chris.
Hi there. Thanks. Hi, Dimitri.
Hey,
Tyler,
Chris.
great to see you again. Hi. So my question is on regarding. By the way, I'm Chris Moen. If you don't already know. And my question is on new schools, particularly the new school process. In terms of up in my neck of the woods, up in Northwest Calgary quadrant, we have a need for 4 new schools. So how do I advocate to you, to my local MLA, who's an NDP, unfortunately, also up to people like Rajan Sani, Mohammed Yassin. Mohammed Yassin wants a new school in Carrington. Rajan Sani wants a new school up in Sage Hill. So how do we get through that? And also, as well, too, how do we shrink the process in terms of design to actual construction? Because the really important part is getting new students into that new school. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. Because in terms of my sort of focus on schools is I sort of feel as a school is a school. It's sort of like the WestJet. Hope you really like the Boeing 737 because we're going to buy a lot of them. And if you could plunk in new schools so you could get to a really fast build, I think that we could probably get new spaces upwards in 3 to 4 years. But anyways, I'll let you take it away. Thanks for the question.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris. An important question. So a couple of pieces to that. How do we decide? I think was one aspect of your question. So I'll explain a little bit about the process. So every spring, our school divisions, well, probably earlier, but our school boards sit down and analyze their capital needs, look at the demographics in their jurisdictions, look at their student population, look at utilization rates, and then put together their capital plan. And then every spring they send me their capital plans and they give me their list. This is the first priority school for our division. This is the second, etc. We take all of those, and then the poor staff members pour through over 400 requests for schools, and put them through a methodology to evaluate the project against a number of different criteria.